plan is used by the department to create awareness on gender-based violence and to combat lockdown challenges that we come across, and sharing information on the services to be offered. The department monitors the implementation of the emergency response action plan in governance and ensures weekly reporting on pillars of the plan. It is escalated to the president. The plan was meant to be executed within 6 months, and reporting is extended to respond to challenges based by the lockdown in respect of gender-based violence.
Thank you, Minister. Unfortunately, your time has expired. You can do that in answering to the supplementary. Honorable Flengwa.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, what alternative alert measures were considered by the department, taking into account that women...
My apologies.
Hello?
Go ahead, Honorable Member.
I'm here, Honorable Flengwa.
No, I made a mistake. Please go ahead, ma'am. I apologize for the disruption.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Minister, what alternative alert measures were considered by the department, taking into account that women and vulnerable children might not have telephones, access, or afraid of the report abuse while being in such close proximity to their abusers, or might have been intimidated to report at the police station for fear breaking of the street lockdown regulations? What did the department do to alert the public that victims of domestic abuse are free to report to the police station? Were there any public announcement on radio stations, for instance, beside the formal publication of the regulation? I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, but before you respond, could the whips remind members that they may only ask one supplementary question. It helps us save time so that many more members are able to do so, and that the ministers are able to respond to as many questions as they can do within the given time. Let's do that. Honorable Minister?
Yes, Honorable Hlongwa, we do have a command center which we share with social development, so that those who do not have the means to phone in their own households could sneak out and use those facilities. But also we use all means of communication in all the languages, or even on print media. Where we can, we even remove children and families nearer or near the perpetrators if it does not work. But remember, this would not have been if it was not for coronavirus.
Comrades, it's just
Honorable
my
Minister.
audio.
No, Chief, that's not provided for. Honorable Minister, connecting.
Honorable Chair, I've just concluded my intervention. I may add, if I still have more time, that besides the...
No, Honorable Minister, there's a question asked by Honorable Mahambeshale. Did you hear it?
Not a word.
You didn't hear it?
Not a word.
No, it's a supplementary question. It's been asked from the floor right now. Can I ask honorable members, please, this is a slight hitch. Don't go to town about it. Honorable Mohammed Salah, ask your question. The minister is now listening, and then she will respond.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, my question is, how many victims of gender-based violence have been helped during the COVID-19 lockdown, especially the women with disabilities? If yes, what interventions were offered to those women? Thank you.
Thank you. Prime Minister.
Honorable, I might not be giving you figures as you are asking, but we are working as a department with our fellow departments in all the provinces, in all the shelters, together with all the non-governmental organizations. Just a week past, myself and the Minister of Social Development, we met together with the UNFPA, UN and women, to reach out to women here in Gauteng who were in need and donated all that which women would need, not food parcels. You and I know that women in stress need more than just food. So that's what we do. And this is just but the beginning. We will continue working in partnership with like-minded organizations together with our government. As I said earlier on, we've also formed an IMC, which is meant to implement the National Strategic Plan. This is meant or included Minister of Police, Minister of Justice, Minister of Social Development, Minister of Public Service and Administration. We will form a committee or a council in the end, which will include other leaders from the non-governmental organizations.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, the next supplementary question. I'm still hoping to hear whether Honorable Michel is connecting. Honorable members, we work on the basis of names that were given to us as per agreement. That's the procedure we are following. So I've got names of those people before me. Now, the next one is the supplementary question asked by Honorable Sonti, who I guess is doing so virtually because she's not in the house. Let's do that. Honorable Sonti, come in.
Yabulela.
Go ahead, Honorable Member.
Yabulela. Minister, we have been subjected Hello?
Minister, we have been subjected.
Can I proceed?
Yes, please.
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 Minister, women have been subjected to gender-based violence before and during the lockdown. Mrs. Ritabile Pakela was raped in her house in the early hours. Mrs. Rebecca Sumbane was burnt by her partner in Marikana, and she couldn't report or open the case to the police due to the regulations that made it very difficult for everyone to go out of the house. What plans your department have put in place to protect our women as well? How do you ensure that they get justice? Thank you.
Honorable Sondi, I regret your time has expired. Honorable Minister, please go ahead.
We do work with women who are not in government, the social sector, who help do door knocks, who assist these vulnerable women and accompany them to report the cases, because we were very much we became aware that this lockdown, while it meant to protect the lives of the women, it was almost like they were sent to slaughterhouse. So those women, like I said, working together with UN Women, which is a UN body, they gave us strategies on how to get these women out, so that a case doesn't just become a phone in and that's it. Particularly even with the ministers, my partners who used to accuse, thinking maybe this doesn't really, bite them. When we formed the IMC. So we will be meeting again next week in the IMC to make sure that we make progress in this regard. We prefer to rather get the perpetrator out of the home, because wherever the mother is, she is with the children and the family. So we will be saying this also, reminding colleagues that if the perpetrator is the one that's making life hell for these people who are not there because they want to, but because of the situation of life and death that was brought by this pandemic, it's the perpetrator who should leave the peaceful people alone.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, I'm told Honorable Misha is ready to connect. Honorable Misha, please go ahead.
He's connected. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Lockdown has unfortunately, among other things, resulted in the loss of employment for many providers in the homes. And that unfortunately led to hunger that would also cause accusation. That would lead to accusations of the provider failing to provide, and resulting with the frustration that these providers have because they cannot provide for their families. The unfortunate thing is for these providers to unleash their frustrations on members of their families. So my question to the minister is that, besides advising the victims of domestic abuse to go and report cases of abuse, does the department offer any counseling to the affected families to try and minimize the misunderstandings that leads to this frustration? Because when a person has lost a job, that it's not only the provider who is at pain, but the family also that cannot have provision is also at pain. So I want to know whether there's any form of...
Honorable Minister, thank you very much. Your time has expired. Please, honorable members, don't explain your questions. It takes all your time. Ask the question, We hope the Minister will be able to respond to you effectively. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Muruti Mishwe, it's an old adage that a man who feels inferior runs to punish women for whatever they haven't done. So please, let the men who could not provide think the only way he could do things is to beat, harm those who have done absolutely nothing wrong. Those who actually expect love and care from him, particularly at this time of the pandemic. The Department of Social Development has been tasked by the government to distribute food parcels, never mind the social, the SASA, but there was also the 350 rands that was to be provided or given out just for the time being to families that find themselves vulnerable. But I really feel and plead with you, the man of the cloth, that it should not come from you, Muruti, that men who do not know what to do with themselves must go ventilate their frustrations to their families.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, the next question is 116 that has been asked by Honorable Groenewald to the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. I've been informed the Minister will be answering questions virtually. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. My department is not aware of the confusion that Honorable Groenewald is talking about, because the regulations were clear, and the regulations said that the business must possess a business license or permit to trade issued in accordance with the Business Act 1991, or a business license or trading permit issued by the relevant municipality. Now, after that, the Minister of Small Business issued directions that further clarified what should happen. And I'll read from some of those directions just to clarify. Then it says all enterprises must ensure that the absolute minimum number of staff necessary to safely operate the enterprise are at work during the lockdown period. Furthermore, employees are encouraged to provide transport. That's clear. The grocery stores outlets must operate during the lockdown period, irrespective of the nationality or their owners, provided that they adhere to the following. Then it explains very clearly all spaza shop owners and informal food traders must hold permits issued by their respective local municipalities, allowing them to trade in line with the provision of the Business Act 1991 as amended. No person may stay overnight in a grocery shop. Only the sale of foodstuffs and basic necessities is permitted. The grocery store must uphold the health and hygiene requirements, maintaining a social distance among customers and between the trader and customer of at least 1 meter. Now, it goes on, it explains very clearly what should happen. So I don't know when Honorable Groenewald says there was confusion between the metro or local enforcers and municipalities. I don't know where the confusion would have arisen from. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Groenewald, as usual, being the first questioner, the supplementary question goes to you. It's coming in through the virtual platform.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honourable Minister, if that is the case, the municipalities have authority to issue permits other than normal trading permits in terms of their bylaws. Yet these municipalities have been issuing permits to businesses and individuals. A Form 2 of the Addendum A was the example issued by Makwakwa municipality that is supposed to be an essential service worker to a person to travel over municipal borders to go and see a doctor, as stated in the permit. This creates confusion. The Minister's Department that have the function and responsibility of cooperative governance did not communicate these relevant regulations properly to all municipalities and law enforcement. What is the Minister going to do to ensure adequate communication between relevant departments, local government and law enforcement going forth, especially when differentiated levels are implemented? Thank you, Deputy.
Well, first of all, when it comes to differentiated levels, it doesn't arise from the answer, so I will not deal with that. But what I want to say to Honorable Groenewald is that we work together in issuing the regulations, the Minister of Police and other ministers. So when we communicate, first, everything is gazetted. Everything I've read to you is gazetted. Secondly, all the ministers also communicate to the Minister of Police and the relevant ministers communicate to the people who enforce. So I really do not know where the confusion was, but if there was, some of the issues that may have arisen, some of them were brought to our attention. I then bring them to the attention of the law enforcers and they get resolved. We must also remember that this is the first time we're in this situation. There may be confusion here and there, but those issues must be raised as when they happen so that they are resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The next one goes to Honorable Khalid.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The regulations that were imposed during level 5 in terms of trade left out informal sector, which comprises of women who sells fruits, who sells vegetables, who sells zamagwinya, manqina. You'll find these women in many places, Minister, such as Kwamamba, Mchepeni, and all over South Africa. These regulations left them with no assistance. Focus was only on big businesses, mainly whites. What is your department's plan to ensure that informal traders who lost income get relief?
Well, first of all, my department is not really treasury, doesn't have money to. The president announced the packages and relevant ministers are dealing with those packages that are to cushion either individuals or businesses. But let me also say to Honorable Mkalipe that what I was reading is an amendment that was made, which is part of the regulations of level 4. And these directions, as I was reading, it says all spaza shop owners, informal food traders. So it doesn't leave other people except those who were selling cooked food, because cooked food was not allowed at that level. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member Tinjan, are you rising on a point of order? Why is your hand up? Otherwise, lower your hand. Okay, let's move to the next part. The member will lower his or her hand. I can experiment with. The last one, the third supplementary is asked by Honorable Hussein. Which one? Honorable Hussein?
Deputy Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable municipalities in our country that have introduced their own permitting system and different requirements. Now, this has made it very difficult for businesses and NGOs, especially when it comes to the distribution of food. You'll also know that as a result of that, the Democratic Alliance had to seek an urgent order from the court. And in that case, the court ordered that government cannot prohibit NGOs and business from you, is whether or not you have distributed the order to the attention of municipalities. And if you haven't done so, by when can we expect that you will bring this to the attention of the municipalities? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, I lost Honorable Hussein somewhere along the way. Can he repeat?
His connection was a bit problem. Honorable Hussein?
Yeah, thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Honorable Minister, what I was saying to you is that there are some municipalities that have introduced their own permitting system, especially when it comes to the distribution of food, and businesses and NGOs have been finding it difficult to distribute food because of that hindrance. And you'll know that as a result of that, the Democratic Alliance had to seek an urgent order from the court. And in that case, the court had ruled that government cannot prohibit NGOs and businesses from distributing food to communities. What I'd like to know from you is whether or not you have brought that court order to the attention of municipalities so that that inconvenience can come to an end. And if you haven't done so, by when can we expect you to do so? Thank you very much.
Yes, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, we can't hear you. Please unmute. Unmute, Honorable Minister. You wouldn't have asked. The minister will answer. Let's just have that.
Can you hear me now?
We can't hear you, Steve. Go ahead, Minister.
You can't hear me?
Now we can.
Oh, okay. No, I was saying that part of what Honorable Hussein has asked as a supplementary question does not arise from what I've said. But let me respond to part of his question, that actually municipalities do have within their sphere a right to have their own regulations, not under the disaster, but in their own laws, and they can make bylaws and all that. So if they did, as long as it wasn't opposite to what the national regulations required. If it was opposite to what the national regulations required, then obviously they were doing something wrong. And but we have informed those that we were made aware of, clarified things to those who have made us aware that there were issues with municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Njaisa, also coming in from outside. Yeah, from a Katiela maybe, or from the chief whip is from Stacksbridge. He says they go to town to connect. Let's hope this does it.
Honorable Speaker,
Honorable Njaisa.
is not in the streets of Matatiele. I don't know where he is. He's very scarce here.
Is there anybody in the house who can do that on his behalf? Honorable Jaisa, are you there? If he's not there,
he's there, but he's muted. He should unmute.
It has to be a member from his party, his whip. Who is ready to do that? Honorable members, don't get involved in other people's affairs. It's none of your business whether they fight. Okay. Honorable members.
He is nowhere to be found, Speaker.
Honorable.
Is there a question? I can't hear you.
The honorable member is struggling to connect. Who would like to take that slot and then we move? Go ahead, honorable member. Where is he? Honorable Hussein, go ahead. Honorable Hussein, are you ready?
Yes, thank you very much, Honourable Minister. You clearly, obviously, didn't hear the previous question, and I was referring in particular to the High Court ruling about the food distribution that the court ruled against government that was secured by the Democratic Alliance. My concern, Deputy Minister, is that your department has not brought this High Court ruling to the attention of municipalities, and there are still many municipalities that are preventing NGOs and businesses, and it's related directly to the question that there are also businesses that are being hindered from this, and which is the reason why we had to secure that court order to prevent government from stopping businesses from distributing food parcels and food to poor communities. What I want to know from you is, are you going to make sure that the regulations and court orders in this regard are brought to the attention of all municipalities in our country, so that there is consistency in the manner in which your regulations are being implemented? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. Obviously, there was no...
all the honorable members, let the minister answer you. You ask a question, wait for the answer. Honorable Minister, please go ahead.
There was no reason for people to, for municipalities, if they stopped people distributing food, even though the directions about distribution of food do not reside with COCTA, but that would have been wrong. But we will try, if those court cases come to our attention, to inform the municipalities in future. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, thank you very much. I've had fun with you. I'm now inviting the speaker to connect. Madam Speaker, connect so that you can release me from the chair. I've been so sweet on you. Madam Speaker, are you connecting?
Thank you.
There's no career here. Absolutely.
Deputy Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Come in, ma'am. Go ahead.
Honorable members, we proceed, honorable members, to question 119, which was put by the Honorable Gungu Blele to the Minister of Social Development. I've been informed the Minister is ready to respond. Minister, please go ahead. Minister, Social Development. Honorable members, we are at question number 119. It was put by the Honorable Gungubele to the Minister of Social Development. I now invite the Minister to respond. Is the Minister online?
Honorable Speaker, this is Singh here from the IFP.
Yes, Mr. Singh.
Yeah, could we not proceed to the next question while they try and locate the Minister to save time? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Honorable members, we will do so. We will come back to question 119, and we will then proceed to the next question, which was put by Honorable Khwaruve. It is question number 193. Is the Minister of Health available? The Minister of Health. Can we find out whether the Minister of Health is on, the Minister of Social Development is on, and all the other ministers who have undertaken to be on this virtual sitting today?
Okay, give me a few seconds. I'm just sitting on a parliamentary session. So what I will do, not a problem. What I will do, let me just get my team to give me the last word so that I can see what is it that we can rule on it so that we can move it from there. I'll then come back to you because it was...
Yes, Minister, I know that we are taking you in the place of the Minister of Social Development. You still had a few minutes to tie up your business. We are now stuck because both you and the Minister of Social Development are saying we can't find you. I will give you a few minutes, Honorable Minister, and move on to the next minister. And I know that it is also unfair to go to this minister because the Minister of Social Development should be here. And that question, which is, may I first start off by finding out whether Minister of Basic Education is ready?
Yes, Speaker, I am.
Please, ma'am, thank you very much for being ready. Can I then ask you to respond to the question which was put to you by the Honorable Meshwe?
No, thank you very much, Speaker, and also thank to members of Parliament. So indeed, Speaker, we will provide personal protective, let me open the camera. I'm sorry about that. So we will, Speaker, provide personal protective equipment to all learners and educators in public schools. And the other answer is that the provision will be made on arrival of schools for teachers. Everybody will receive their protective clothes upon arrival, and the provincial education departments are the ones that are responsible for procuring these PPEs, and the cost can be obtained from all different provinces. What National did through the Department of Trade and Industry was to develop the specification and a proposed price for all the different specifications so that you don't have a situation where everybody buys at different prices. And that's all that we did, but all the procurement took place in provinces. And so how much they spent will be known by provinces, not by us, ourselves at national level. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you. The first supplementary goes to you, Muruti Meshwe.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Minister. While we appreciate what the Minister has said, I want to know whether unions that have been complaining, such as SATU, that schools are not ready because they do not have the PPEs, are they not honest in saying that? When they say that the PPEs are not in the actual individual schools, but they are in district offices, and they don't believe that the offices will deliver those PPEs on time. So my question is, are they not honest in saying there are no PPEs in the schools? Have they not seen it, or what is the problem?
Thank you, sir. The Honorable the Minister.
No, Speaker, I want to honest of other individuals. I'm stating facts as reported from different provinces. We're saying the protective clothing or those PPEs for learners will be available in schools upon arrival. We're saying we first sent the first stock in the first wave when we had your senior managers, they arrived. This week, because they were expecting teachers, the teachers' PPEs are arriving. The learners' PPEs will arrive on time because what we were avoiding, which is happening in different schools, there are breakages. If they know that there are valuable items in schools, there are always breakages. We already have many incidents of breakages in schools just this week. We even had deaths where people were killed trying to break into our schools. So the point about whether they're honest or dishonest, I don't want to get there. I can only give you the facts of what would have been reported to me by MECs, and I have no reason to doubt what they were telling me.
Thank you, Minister. The second supplementary goes to the Honorable Mashabela. Honorable Mashabela.
Thanks, Speaker. I'm going to take the question for Honorable Mashabela. Honorable Moshala, I'm going to shoot straight to the question. My question is, what is on the list of the PPEs to be supplied to each school to be considered suitable for opening? In instances whereby learners have forgotten or misplaced their PPEs at home, is the department going to be able to supply all schools with surplus of PPEs? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
No, Chair, every learner is going to be given 2 masks and will replenish later in the year in case there are losses, damages. But for the first round, we're going to give them each. There are going to be sanitizers, which are going to be used to clean surfaces every day. There are going to be hand sanitizers in every classroom. But there's also going to be your cleaning material that you are sending, the soaps that are being sent. And depending on the intensity of the spread of the virus, for instance, you won't treat, for instance, Blobedu, where there's just no incident of any infection, the way you will treat Joburg and Cape Town. So in areas where there's high intensity, there are also double measures put in place. We're also supplying soap because they have to wash hands or sanitize. So in case one of the two does not come in place, it's going to be there. In terms of just the protocols are saying no child will be allowed into the school premises if they don't have their masks on. So there is no way they will say they've forgotten. So which means they'll have to turn at the gate to go and take the second one. So they can't declare that they would have lost or forgotten one when they're already in the school, because they can't enter the school yard without a mask.
Well, thank you, ma'am. The third supplementary is taken by Ntate Nkwankwa. The Honorable Nkwankwa.
Thank you, House Speaker. Thank you, Bama, because in light of the fact that you are going to have more than roughly about 200,000 teachers and parents getting ready for school next week, and due to the fact that we have seen media reports that there are a number of delays in delivering the PPEs, has any interventions been undertaken to ensure that the correct protocols are followed in schools insofar as the use of PPEs, because so that they don't end up becoming a major source of transmission for the coronavirus? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Minister.
No, Speaker, that was a strict instruction given by health when we were announced that we want to open schools. That said, priority number 1 is to make sure that schools don't become centers of infections. priority number 2, they are not centers for spreading the infection before even talking about saving the year. So those are the strict protocols that were given, and that's why there's a clear regimen about what happens from when you enter the school premises, that there's going to be daily testing at any school. So if a school does not have a thermometer, it will not operate. If a school has not already demarcated by Monday to safe distance, it will not operate. If a school has not received its mask or anything, it will not operate. So there are clear protocols under which schools can operate. Otherwise, no school is going to be allowed to operate if it does not meet all the set up criteria that have been given to us by health.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, we must thank the Minister. We go back to question number 119, which was put by the Honorable Gungubed to the Minister of Social Development. Minister?
Sorry, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable, the Minister of Social Development.
Madam Speaker, on point of order.
What is the point of order?
You only had 3 follow-ups to that question. There's Honorable Tarabella Marchesi on the list as well.
Oh, I must apologize. Honorable Marchesi, my apologies. Honorable Minister, I released you too early, Minister of Basic Education. Honorable Marchesi, your supplementary, please.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the Minister. My question is this, Minister, given the fact that this morning we woke up to the news that there were teachers that are infected with COVID-19, in case that we do apply screening in schools, but then a learner is found then to contract the virus and then it becomes asymptomatic, and that learner goes back home, what is it that we are doing to ensure that learners that don't transmit the virus to their grandparents and also to parents with underlying conditions?
Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable the Minister.
No, thank you, Chair. We've been taken through the entire process of how to manage screening, testing, and how to react when you have a child or a person who presents high temperature. So those are protocols which are followed everywhere else. Even if we were to be in Parliament, that would be the same protocols that schools are going to follow. In terms of children taking infections home, I think Member Mike is quite aware that the greatest risk is amongst adults, not children. Even in the case of Western Cape, where we've had these 2 infections, it's infected adults, not children. So we are not saying children are not at risk, but we are saying that the risk factor. So our focus is really around senior people. We'll be coming speaker to the Western Cape, because the Western Cape, especially in the different regions, are a major concern for us, and the huge because the 2 incidents come from the Western Cape. So we will be coming down on Sunday with the President to discuss with the province to say how do we manage Western Cape in a way that does not make sure that Western Cape keep on having the infections that they're having or spreading the infections. But with the other cases, children are the least at risk. The most people at risk is adults, and that's why we're focused on teachers and workers, but we're not ruling out the fact that children should be infected. So we will protect them not to be infected. So there is no reason for them to be infections like grannies because the schools want infection. So they'll safe distance, they'll sanitize, they'll wear masks. If they're not infected by the time they shouldn't be infected by the time they leave the school.
Thank you, Minister.
Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Adjourns.
Honorable Adjourns, you are on a point of order because all the supplementary.
Yes, there's
what
also
is your point of order?
yes, supplementary question by Honorable Malat. It was not noted.
No, Member. No. I have taken, Honorable Member, any question has 4 supplementaries. The first supplementary comes from the person who put the question. Honorable Machesi was the last supplementary. So we thank the Minister. He has dealt with the 4th supplementary, and therefore we have dealt with that question. We're now moving on to the question which was put by Honorable Nkubele to the Minister of Social Development. I did see that the Minister is on. Minister, please proceed. Minister of Social Development. Order. Best intervention Parliament ever. Honorable Minister of Social Development. Is there another problem? Honorable members, we are back at 119.
No, there's no problem. The minister must just unmute your mic to speak. Mic is muted.
Honorable Minister of Social Development.
Yes, I am here, Chairperson. I'm answering the question. Yeah, I would like to thank Honorable Gungubelo for the question. The answer is that we've learned a lot of lessons from this. Firstly, is that social security sector has untapped capacity to improve its deliverables to the coal face of our people. We can respond quickly and efficiently. I can't hear anything.
Honorable Minister, please hold on. Honorable members, can we ask all the participants who are not speaking mute their mics, please?
Thank you.
And all the honorable members who are not on the floor of this virtual meeting, mute their mics.
Speaker.
Honorable Minister, can we also ask you to take off your earphones, please? Honorable Minister? Honorable Minister? Honorable Minister? Please proceed.
Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Singh.
Honorable Speaker, I think the fact that the Minister doesn't know how to use his gadgets is really not acceptable. And we members of Parliament were taken through a briefing. And I think they should also be taken through a briefing so they don't waste the time of Parliament.
Honorable Singh, that point of order I will not accept. I will accept that the Minister is having technical trainer because they have been using virtual platforms, and this particular Minister is very suspect IT. Honorable Minister, can we pass the words to still sort out the IT problems and move on to the other Minister and the other question?
Speaker.
It seems we do have connectivity problems.
Speaker.
Honorable Mkalipi, it's a point of order.
Yes, Speaker. There's a lot of echo. Ask the ICAG
Because
This,
according to
it's so noisy, we can't hear anything.
Yes. I have sent a message to the administration to mute everybody who is not on the floor. So whilst we are sorting out what the difficulties are with the Minister of Social Development, can we move on to the Minister of Health? Minister of Health, are you back?
Yes. Madam Speaker.
Take you on ungakabi ready. Can I please ask you to respond to the question which was put to you by the Honorable Kwarube?
Thank you very much. I'm sorry about the earlier miscommunication. I hadn't been aware that it was my turn, but then I also have my side muted, so I didn't realize there was already some breakthrough noise. The question from Honorable Kwahube is a question about modeling. She asked about what we need to expect through models that the COVID-19 infection will peak and what will be the death rate at that time. The response is as follows. There are several modeling groups that have released their estimates publicly, and there are three types of estimates that are currently being modeled. One, projection, which estimate the number of new infections and deaths as well as resources that will be required for the response. Two, the interventions, if fully implemented, that can flatten the curve. And three, spatial and motility models that are models that can be used to identify hotspots. The estimates provided by these models are influenced by assumptions used by the models, the different models. The model presented in a recent virtual symposium which we hosted as a department included projection models from the South African COVID-19 Modeling Consortium, which is composed of modelers from National Institute of Communicable Diseases, Modeling and Simulation Hub of South Africa, a unit of the UCT, and the Center for Excellence in Epidemiological Modeling and Analysis at University of Stellenbosch, and the Health Economics and Epidemiology Research from WITS. There was another from Deloitte, on behalf of Business for South Africa and the Actuarial Society of South Africa. According to the South African Modeling Consortium, the peak of the infection is expected in mid-July in what is called the pessimistic scenario, and in mid-August in the optimistic scenario. This model estimates that provinces will peak at different times. The ASA model predicts that the peak will be full in August. These models should be considered dynamic and are dependent on the data available, and as new data comes in, such as hospitalizations, become available, the new estimates will be released by the modelers. As the output of these models are not cast in stone, they should only be used as a guide of what may be possible, and so that we plan and take all of those into account. B, the different models that have been made in public have different death rates at the peak. The South African COVID-19 Modeling Consortium estimated the number of deaths under two scenarios to range between 34,000 and 50,000. The Actuarial Society estimated 48 to 38,000, and then the other one by Deloitte estimates up to 41,000 deaths by December. All of these figures have also been challenged by other academics, so at the moment they are good just to keep note of them, but they are actually open for debate amongst those who are specialists in this arena. So we can only just indicate that we look at them and then we have a sense of what's happening, and not necessarily all what is coming from models is actually taken into account in our situation. We just take those aspects that we believe may well be important, and we keep watching. We do believe that the models will improve as the time goes on and more information, raw data comes from South Africa is fed onto their assumptions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. The first supplementary goes to you, Honorable Kwarube.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Minister. As it has been said before, the point of the risk-adjusted strategy ensure that we delay the peak of the pandemic while we build health system capacity. We know that we have between 3,000 and 4,000 ICU beds across the country in both the public and the private health sector. However, we're also aware that not all provinces are at the same state of readiness for these peaks. Some hospitals, like Prey in the Buffalo City municipality, have been deemed unsafe by the Department of Labour due to growing concerns around staff safety, more so as it pertains to the availability of PPE. Then the question becomes, how have we raised the line of the health system to ready ourselves for the peak of the COVID-19 infection? So how many ICU beds did we start off with as a country in both the public and the private healthcare sector? And how many new beds and related equipment has the government acquired in the past 8 weeks?
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you very much. Let me say that I couldn't be certain I had all the questions raised by the Honourable Member. However, I do realize she was talking about the issue that was raised in the various scenarios about the possible situation of the ICU beds. Now, just to give a sense, we have been working on this matter. We must say that the pattern that was initially estimated was that we're likely to get our peak very close to July in the worst case scenario, and then probably much later for the best case scenario. So all the provinces have actually prepared additional beds across all the different provinces, and the numbers are staggered in the sense that the first lot of beds are already in place in a number of areas, and then of course we've got a lead time to put up the additional beds. At the moment, the estimated number of ICU beds was just over 5,000, and that number was combining both public and private, but we have also then started looking at additional beds that are being fitted for particularly the provinces that were estimated to be going to be heavily hit, mainly the Gauteng and the Western Cape. So that the work we're doing is actually to ensure that when there's any problem immediately, we've got an arrangement to be able to use the private hospital beds, which has already started in the Western Cape, and it's going to be like that in different parts of the country. There are issues we're still cleaning up between us and the private sector, and that is the cost of the beds, of ICU beds. But there's a team that's working on that. The availability of the PPEs has also been an issue because of the global shortage of supply, but we have actually ordered enough. Working with Business for South Africa, there's quite a lot of stock that has been brought into the country, and we do believe that the major issue now is monitoring and redistribution within a district, but the country is by and large well served with available PPEs. Just a matter of ensuring that in every hospital there is distribution. If there's a shortage, the other part of the district should be able to make those PPEs available. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The second supplementary to you, Minister, is put to you by the Honorable K.L. Jacobs on the digital platform. The Honorable Jacobs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Minister. The many institutions which develop models about the epidemic in South Africa. South Africans can get a better understanding of the epidemic trajectory through those models. And the models also assist government to be able to prepare interventions to reduce the number of infections. Now, some common uncertainties that stand out in the models are the rate of asymptomatic infections, how infectious SARS-CoV-2 is, how effective various interventions are, and the death rate itself. The question to you is, can the models give us a false sense of security, as we can only make educated guesses within the limited information to our disposal?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The Honourable Member is dead right. The real issue with the with the models is the fact that over these models came in as the outbreak was moving on. So their first assumptions were a little much more wide in the sense that they took models from all over the world, but they did not have direct data that was relating to what was going on in South Africa. And over the past few weeks, they've been trying to improve. Now, the issue that's raised by the honorable member about us uncertainty, one of the issues that's a challenge is the number of asymptomatic positive cases, because that gives you a sense when you estimate if you find so many people with symptoms, you need to have a sense what percentage of the total number of infected people that is. It's a very difficult matter to clarify if we have not seen what the situation is in South Africa. From the experience coming from different parts of the world, the number would have ranged anything from 60 up to maybe in some areas 60%. In some instances, they give you a much larger figure. In some instances, it's a much lower figure. It also does depend as well on the level at which people with mild symptoms might actually decide to go look for assistance. So it's a major issue of uncertainty. It will make it difficult to be certain what the models are telling us, and that's why part of the debate has come from other academics has been whether we can deal with this. For example, in one case, they estimated that South Africa could have as many as 12 million people, and this was raised by some, even the members of the media were questioning if some of the countries that are ahead of South Africa that have got much bigger population have not even gone beyond 2 million in their own population. How did they think that this would happen? So it's a very rich area of debate. The question of deaths, at the moment, we were looking at the death rate at 1.9%. This is now, it varies depending on country to country, but on its own as well, it does depend on the nature of the testing, the accuracy of the testing, and also ensuring that we are able to define the issue of deaths in a particular way. So our Ministerial Advisory Committee has now been tasked to sit down and align the definition of deaths so that we have got a similar understanding of deaths, moving from the confirmed case to cases where they suspected, and in some instances posthumous swabs that would need to be taken. So it does become a bit complicated, making the uncertainty even wider. So I think the point that the member is raising is correct. So we can only say we will watch, look at the figures, and then as we get closer to reality, as we check our own daily records, we will be able to know how reliable those models are. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The third supplementary question will be put to you, Minister, by the Honorable Thring. Honorable Thring, by virtual platform.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Minister, the importance of the modeling and data system used for COVID-19 cannot be overemphasized. The ACDP welcomes the recent announcements by the President Ramaphosa, hopefully based on accurate modeling, to remove some of the restrictions imposed on the church. A call made by the ACDP President, Reverend Dr. Kenneth Meshwe, in a letter he wrote to the presidency. In the same vein, we also salute the churches, NGOs, and other religious organizations for their sterling work to assist the poor and the vulnerable amongst us during these trying times. Now, can the Minister also give us some clarity as to what directives, health protocols, and hygiene protocols and restrictions will apply post the announcements of the President to ease the restrictions on worship in a carefully measured way? And with regards to comorbidities, will there now be increased comorbidity reporting with regards to data? Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Indeed, the issue of modeling, we working closely. The point we're making is that we need to understand the limits and the limitations that are in the models. We can't necessarily take everything as it stands. We need to keep a watch on it and see what the worst possible scenario that are being predicted, and also do everything we can to change that trajectory so that whatever is on the model needs not happen. We must also salute the religious leaders for the way they have embraced the decision by the cabinet to lock down the country, where they willingly were able to participate in a program to educate communities to refrain from large mass gatherings. That has actually assisted the country to avoid a huge explosion that would have happened in the early days of the infection. For that, we're really eternally grateful to the churches, to the mosque, and to all the synagogues and all the different faith groups, because this is one area that would have been very difficult for us, and it has really made a huge contribution in improving the slowing down on the infection. Now, there will obviously be a number of restrictions that we in our normal daily life have to put in place. In the first instance, we want to acknowledge the role of the various churches of coming forward to offer various constructive suggestions about how we can fight this disease. So we take the church and the faith-based community as partners in the fight against COVID-19, particularly to ensure social behavioral change, making sure everybody, when you leave your house, you put on a mask, and when you frequent hand washing, sanitizers, and also ensuring a distance and keeping to the limited number of people in a place of worship, so that at the end of the day, on a day-to-day basis, the culture of how we behave, we hope that the church and the faith-based organization will be in the forefront, talking to people about what we need to be able to limit the spread of the infection. So from that point of view, we will continue to work with the faith-based communities, and also in the area of relief, social relief, and areas of ensuring that when we utilize some of the facilities, if we need to expand facilities into some of the places of worship, that this is opened and is acceptable, that in the way the church and the religious practices are performed, there's always an understanding of the spread of the infection with frequent wiping of the tables on the pulpits and so on, so that whoever is in worship, in a place of worship, does not go home having contracted the infection. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Your last supplementary is put to you by the Honorable Hlengwa, MD, through virtual platform. The Honorable MD Hlengwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, my question is regarding the shortage of the diagnostic material has been spoken about at length. In preparation for the level 3, what contingency plans have the department put in place in this regard? I thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The issue of testing has been a major, weapon in our arsenal as we fight this pandemic. As we speak now, South Africa has gone beyond 600,000 tests. That's quite a huge number, considering that where we started, we had done about 30 tests, maybe 300 tests, and so on. So the numbers have increased to a point where we're very close to around the average of about 20,000, 18 to 20,000 tests that we do overnight. In some of the days we exceed, some of the days we're a bit less. The real thing that's hitting us is the issue of the shortages, global shortages in the supplies. So we have actually got our South African Health Products Regulatory Authority going all out to ensure that as many as possible diagnostic test kits are licensed, so that they are available where we can. So what we're getting a challenge is that even if it's licensed, we still have to go through validation processes. That is going on right now. Because I've got a similar question, I may actually give you figures a bit later, but the point at the end of the day is that we are doing everything that we can to ensure that we can keep to the level of testing that we need to be able to get a sense of the positivity rate and manage the infection, particularly the issue of ensuring that whoever is positive needs to be isolated in hospital or at home, and those who are contacts must be tested and be put in quarantine, and that everyone else must know that we can actually, each one of us can can contract the infection. And so it becomes important for us to say all that we're doing in increasing the numbers of testing is constrained by factors beyond our control, which is what the global supply situation is. There are some of the countries that have started to focusing on it as more of the resource nationalism is taking place. So every country is looking for what we also are looking for. Lack of our internal capacity is a challenge, lack of capacity to manufacture our own diagnostic kits. So I think we need to invest in that as we go into the future as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. That was your last supplementary on this question, Minister. We are going to go back to question number 119, put by the Honorable Gungubele to the Minister of Social Development. Minister, are you fine? Minister Zulu. Minister Zulu? If the minister is not ready, I will move to the next question.
Chair, I suggest that we move. We're trying to get hold of Mama Zulu. She's breaking.
Can we therefore move? Thank you. Can we move to question number 120? That question was put to the Minister of Basic Education by the Honorable Adwans. The Honorable, the Minister of Basic Education.
No, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Speaker, the question was about school infrastructure. So our response is that addressing school infrastructure is a continuous process that we have as a sector, and not limited to COVID-19. The different provincial education departments are currently implementing more than 2,000 projects focused on addressing water and sanitation challenges, and these projects are mainly funded from provincial education infrastructure grant. But the national department also, with the SAFE program, has a program to eradicate infrastructure backlog through ASIDI, and in this regard, we have almost 854 sanitation projects underway, which have reached practical completion, and currently we have 991 projects also which are almost complete and are meant to provide water. So the National Department is also assisting in eradicating pit latrines at schools through the SAFE program, and in this regard, contractors have been appointed and they are on the ground to implement 1,076 projects. So in these provinces, the department has identified an additional number of 3,500 schools with critical water challenges. So in compliance with the procurement processes under the state of disaster, we have entered into an implementation protocol with the Department of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation, and Rainwater. And under this initiative, water is being delivered at different schools to address shortages in these 3,500 schools. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. The Honorable Adwans by virtual.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for the response. Can the Minister provide a breakdown per province of the 3,500 schools identified for water tanks, and also confirm if this water tank is installed in those schools? I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable, the Minister.
Okay, it's not possible to have figures off the head if they have not been asked before, because I needed to have really brought real figures. I just know that there are 3,459 in different provinces, the majority being Limpopo, Eastern Cape, and KZN. But there are some schools in Gauteng. But now to ask me to give you breakdown of figures when it was not part of the question, it will be difficult to be able to respond.
You are right, Minister. Honorable members should know that if they want statistical responses, they should ask the question to be in written form. Thanks for trying, Minister. The second supplementary. The second supplementary will be put to the Minister by the Honorable S.S. Tembakwayo on a virtual platform. The Honorable Tembakwayo.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Speaker. Minister, I took it upon my soldier to verify the following facts, and then I would like you to respond on it, which are found to be true. Dalton Primary School in Gugundlovu District in KwaZulu-Natal Province. Mahumani High School in Shamavunga Circuit in Mupani East District, Boko. Ubudle Bemvelo Primary School in KZN. Uchani Primary School in Limpopo Province, including Ikupem Primary School in Dikale in Limpopo Province, has had problems of lack of toilets for more than a decade. To date, nothing has been done, and you have only 4 days to rectify this or to improve the situation. Yet you expect schools to reopen. Specifically referring to Mahumani High School, which has had 4 classrooms blown away by the wind on the 24th of November 2019, is the same school that still has 1 toilet, which caters for 606 learners. The school was all over the media last year.
Remember your supplementary.
What is your urgent contingency plan within these 4 days that will improve this problem, Minister?
Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable Minister.
It's the same thing. If I'm to confirm or deny, I also need to go and verify. The member should have given me all the questions, all the names, go and verify with provinces and come back to him. But what I know as a generic issue is that in instances where we are unable to respond and the COVID-19 compliant, we will send temporal structures. I'm not sure if they're on their way because I don't know which schools is talking about of the 3,000. And that's that's one of the measures we've put in place. The other measure we've put in place, for instance, was we're phasing in opening. If there are situations which we find completely impossible for us to operate, we will transport learners to other schools. Because as I said, the health department and the National Command Center will not allow us to operate in a school which is risky for learners. So, but the specific things I was supposed to have been given time so that I check and confirm. But we have agreed with MECs on plan Bs in case plan As are not in place by the time we want learners to go to school.
On the point of order.
Thank you, Minister. What is your point of order, Honorable Shibambo?
Supplementary questions are not sent to the minister in advance, and we can't say that we can't ask questions that specifically relate to specific schools because we're in a press conference that all the schools are going to operate. We're bringing that up now, that there is challenges in the following schools. And she says she cannot respond to that because she's the one who gave an assurance that there is going to be readiness of all the schools. Also, this thing of saying that she doesn't know. Also, this thing of saying she doesn't know where the schools are spread, which I've got.
Honorable Floyd, your point
is because the supplementary questions are not sent in advance.
We know, Honorable Floyd, Honorable Shibambo, your point is taken. The minister acknowledged that, and I think what needs to be done is, Mayor Tembakwayo, can you please send a written question to the minister specifically on this? But she also said, Honorable Shibambo, that where they are not compliant, those schools will not be open because they are subject to the same regulations that they expect everybody else to follow. Can we then move on to the next person who's putting a supplementary? And that person is the Honorable Jaisa. I hope this time Honorable Jaisa is in the house. Honorable Jaisa is Honorable Jaisa in the house? He is not. If Honorable Njaisa is not in the House, is there any other member from any other party who is able to make the point? This supplementary.
NFP. Maybe the NFP.
The NFP?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Please identify yourself and go ahead.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. It's A.M. Sheikh Imam, National Freedom Party. Minister, as much as you are telling us everything is okay at the schools and you're asking the learners to go back to school, that is not the message that we are getting from many governing bodies throughout South Africa. And one ideal example is the Evergreen School, where they have highlighted and advised the department that they do not have the capacity, they do not have the manpower, they do not have the resources. But it appears this thing of sending the children back to school is being pushed down the throats of people, parents particularly, many of whom are opposing this. Can you tell us, have you taken into consideration what the health department and scientists and specialists have said in terms of social distancing, with children being vulnerable to the flu, and we are entering the flu season now, and then they get infected with COVID-19? We don't know what to do with that. Do you think you're taking the right decision?
Thank you, Honorable Sheikh Imam. The Honorable the Minister.
No, Chair, we're very confident that we are taking the correct decision. We've made a case, we've explained why we've taken decisions to send children to school. In terms of social distancing, that's why we're phasing in, because we don't have adequate capacity to accommodate all learners at the same time. So that's why we're phasing. So we're quite confident that we will be able to space. The other tool that was given to us is that we have to make sure that learners can, well, everybody must wear masks. That we have also put in place, that we can clean surfaces at all times, that children have to wash hands, but also use sanitizers. We have put that in place. So we are quite confident that in terms of the guidance, that not only are we getting from our own health department, but also experts in the area, Mr. Sheikh, are saying there is no reason why we must keep children at school, at home. So we've also said, because we're dealing with a very difficult environment where people are rightfully anxious, for the first time we are allowing, which is it's sometimes not in the law, saying to parents who are anxious, now no one is forcing anything down their throats. They must keep their children at home. So there is no one who say, bring your child to school if you are anxious. We're saying we understand that you are anxious. But on the other hand, we're saying your anxiety should not determine the future of other children whose parents do want their children to go to school. So we are supporting you to keep your child at home. We're not forcing anything down your throat, but we are saying don't stand on the way of the children and the parents who want to come to school. So those are the parents I'm speaking to you. You are speaking to the parents who feel that they're being forced. Advise them to say they must keep children in school, because the parents I'm speaking to and the children I'm speaking to also want to come back to school. And we know schools are good for children. They're playing the streets now. They're fine. It can be cold when they go to school and it's warm when they're home. It can be safe when they play in the streets, and it becomes extremely unsafe when they come to schools.
Thank you, Minister. The last supplementary on this question will be put by the Honorable D. van der Walt through virtual platform. The Honorable van der Walt.
Thank you, Speaker. Can I go?
Yes, please.
Yes. Well, Minister, your department is facing severe budget cuts, as we know, and it will, of course, result in severely affecting many of the projects, infrastructure projects, even those that you referred to earlier today. Now, with regards to the specific 3,475 schools that were identified with critical water supply challenges, one would think that if you're identified as critical, that you'll be first on the list. that it's already started to deliver the requested either borehole water to these 3,475 schools? If not, what was the point of listing them as critical? And by when will these schools then prioritize to get water? Will it be done by 1st of June?
Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable the Minister.
So indeed, the member is correct that the current challenge that we have with the virus has affected budgets. We've had to reprioritize as budgets. As departments, we had to cut off many other things which are not necessarily critical or urgent. So there are quite a number of areas that we had to reduce. But fortunately, there are other areas which we could not implement, or other programs we could not implement because of the problem. We didn't have athletics, we didn't have music. All other social projects have been brought to a halt. So those resources have been channeled to assist ourselves and provinces to prioritize programs which will make us COVID-19 compliant. So how we identify the critical schools, we have taken the EIG resources which were meant for building new schools. We're taking that money to help us supplement water. As I said, we have a contract with Department of Water, and we agreed with them on on-time delivery. We didn't want to deliver water on the 4th and come back and find our tanks stolen or taken away. So what is currently happening, Madam Speaker, the Department of Water, Sanitation and Provinces are busy rolling out and delivering those tanks. And it was deliberate that the deliveries will only start on the 25th of May, when we are close to opening and when there's activity in schools, especially with the current violence or even destruction of our infrastructure. It would have not been wise to go into schools when it was still very quiet. So now that there's activity from this Monday, we are rolling out infrastructure that we think is vulnerable, and that process is going on even over the weekend. We do expect them to have deliveries, and it was deliberate not to deliver even before the 25th to protect those assets.
Thank you, Minister. I have to proceed to the next question, and that is question number 140. It was put to the Minister by the Honorable M. Sheikh Imam. He is in the House. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Speaker. The Deputy Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture will take the question.
Yes, DM, please proceed.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to the Honourable Member for the question. The Legacy Trust has indicated to us that it did not receive 1 billion from FIFA World Cup. Rather, they had received 450,762,816. And this money was paid to them in 3 tranches. The first amount was paid in 2011 in September, and the second one was paid on the 26th in September, which was 20 million, and the last one was paid in 2012 on the 16th of April, and it was about 170 million. Now, this amount, the total, of course, it was then paid to SAFA nationally and SAFA the regions and local SAFA. It was also used for bursaries, and it was also paid to the local football associations, and it was also used for the development through football organizations, health and education. But the details, they have given us the full details of the breakdown, and we can submit that, Speaker, in writing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. The Honorable Imam Sheikh.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Deputy Minister, that does not appear to be a true account of exactly what the situation is. You know that SAFA is bankrupt. Hundreds of millions of rand was spent on equipment, including compressors and things, and generators and other stuff that has not been accounted for. There's been no development of sport in South Africa whatsoever. would you consider, Deputy Minister, initiating an inquiry into this matter and bring in the officials and employees of SAFA to account? Leave the politicians out of it so we can see exactly where this 1 billion rand that was supposed to have been invested and the interest of that money was supposed to go to development and support throughout the country. And you'll agree with me, and it reminds me of President Zuma. Whenever Bafana scored a goal, he celebrated. It tells you there's no development of sports in South Africa at all. So can we get the details, and would you then consider an inquiry, a commission of inquiry? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you very much, Honorable Imam. Definitely, this is public money, and we have a responsibility to account, and also SAFA and the trust have got a responsibility to account. So, with pleasure, Honorable Imam, we will look at the matter, and obviously through the Portfolio Committee as well in Parliament, they can look at this matter, but if then what is found needs a commission of inquiry, we will consider it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. The second supplementary question will be put by the Honorable B.S. Madlingozi. The Honorable Madlingozi will do so by virtual platform.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy Minister, we are worried that too many sport facilities are used as soccer fields but are not properly developed and were never utilized for the legacy project, like the one in NY7, Ekuguletu, next to Guletu Sports Center Complex, and the one behind the old chain stores of NY6. What is the criteria selecting these facilities? Does the department consult the community? And what is the plan of the department about these places mentioned? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Madlingozi, for that question. The stadiums that you're talking about, obviously, we're talking about those that would have been funded by this funding from the Legacy Trust. And as you know, Honorable Madlingozi, this is an independent body which works with SAFA. It doesn't work with the department. But obviously, there is a relationship between us and them in terms of giving us that report. What we will then have to do, because I know you serve in the Committee of the Sports, Arts and Culture, we will provide you with the details of what then has happened in provinces and in districts in terms of this legacy trust funding and where it was used. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. The Honorable Faber is in the chamber. He takes the next supplementary. The Honorable Faber.
Thank you, Chair. After years of silence, SAFA CEO Dennis Mumble came with a damning report on value of Dawn involving 80 million rand of the 2010 FIFA World Cup Legacy Trust Fund that was supposed to further the professional development of young people in South Africa. Previously, that like the $10 million grant was paid to FIFA officials by voting for South Africa to host this 2010 FIFA World Cup. The then Sport Minister Bakiri Mbalula covered up with Mr. Jordan to say it was a donation, not a grant to the celebrate football union. The suitcase called the $10,000 tax of US currency was also paid to Mr. Warren Sun and Paris Hotel by an SA high-ranking official called co-conspirator 50 is the US Attorney General outcome of the FBI investigation. Co-conspirator 16, another SA high-ranking official, was implicated with Mr. Warren and was found guilty unlikely for the money laundering. My question is, who are these two conspirators? If you know, will you name the names or will you get it from the US Attorney General and present it to this Parliament and investigate this crime, track the FIFA officials through this just-border fund, which was covered by government directive, so-called by Mr. Mbalula?
Honorable Deputy Minister, I hope you got the supplementary clearer than I did.
I did not hear.
I couldn't. I tried to listen. I couldn't get it at all.
I also did not hear.
Honorable Mtembu, mute your mic. Mute your mic.
You're not being asked the
Honorable
question.
Faber, can I ask you to repeat?
Chairperson, the question.
Honorable Faber.
Yes, Chairperson. These
Please raise it.
Can you hear me now, Chair? Who are these two co-conspirators in the FBI report that was...
Can Honorable Faber remove the mask, please? We can't hear anything.
Honorable Zekias, I suppose you were the one who interjected. Please mute your mic. Honorable Faber, you are on the floor.
Chairperson, I would like, who are these two conspirators in the FBI report? And if you don't know, will you get their names from the US Attorney General and present it to this Parliament and investigate this bribe that was paid to officials through this Diaspora Legacy Fund, which was covered up as a government directive by the then Minister of Sport, Kile Murula. You get it.
The Honorable the Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I could catch part of the conspirators and the inquiry, but I couldn't get the whole. I would suggest and I would ask humbly if Honorable Faber can probably present that question in writing, and then we can be able to respond in writing, because I think it is a question that is very important, but I can't hear him properly right now.
Order, members, order. Honorable Faber. Honorable Faber, the mics in the house.
Everyone can be heard except me apparently when I ask relevant questions.
Honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable Faber. It is very difficult to hear what you were saying. I would suggest that we either have it in writing or we try and get a new question from you on the same issues the next time. Who is addressing you? Who is addressing you? Hello? Identify yourself, please, Honorable Member, and address.
It's shown in your list.
Yes, please proceed.
Mr. Faber's question can be summed up in one sentence. Who is co-conspirator 15 and 16? Maybe this microphone is clearer than this.
You could have helped him before you wrote it.
Order. Order. Order, members. Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Deputy Minister. Did that interjection help you, or should we agree that the question must be put in a different form next time?
I would humbly request, Madam Speaker, that the question must be put to me next time in another form.
Yes, and that question, Honorable Faber, order members, order. That question, Honorable Faber, will not lose the elements you are wanting to follow. All the shenanigans that the question assets happened and they cover us. We move to the last supplementary. That supplementary. No, order members. Order. Order. Will all the mics that are not supposed to be on be muted? The last supplementary goes to the Honorable B.B. Malomani virtual platform.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Deputy Minister. Hello?
Honorable Malomani, hold on. Honorable members in the chamber. Honorable members in the chamber. Do not disrespect the House. Do not disrespect the member who is on the floor. Honorable Malomani, you are protected. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question to the Deputy Minister is, looking back with the benefit of hindsight, how has the contribution made to the Legacy Trust assisted in the shaping and transformation of soccer in this township?
The Honorable the Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Speaker. One of the reasons why we had agreed to host the World Cup in 2010 was to make sure that we are able to have the legacy that can go as far as the rural areas that normally wouldn't benefit. If you listened to the 560 million that I had spoken about, that was given to us by FIFA, the majority of that money has gone to the district and regional football associations to make sure that we are able to have soccer reaching out to as far as possible. Of course, how then the effect of that happens depends on the members of the House to be able to do that oversight where we are, so that we can be able to speak and be able to say, yes, indeed, from what we have posted, the benefit has been on the ground. But the reports that we had received from the district and from SAFA itself, the hosting has actually helped to make sure that we had the legacy has moved to as far away people as possible. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Towards the end, you were breaking, so I hope that the members heard you. Thank you, Deputy Minister. Honorable members, we are moving on to question number 121. It was put to the Minister of Health by the Honorable A. Gela. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question 121 put by Honorable Gela. He asked about what are the factors determining and the reasons for specifically pointing at declaring parts of the country as centers of COVID-19 infections, and what work has been done by the department in relation to containment strategies. The first response is that these determining factors would be as follows. Any geographic area which has recorded 5 or more positive cases per 100,000 population during a period under consideration is labeled as an epidemiological hotspot. This is informed by the weekly rate of change in the percent active positive cases per 100,000 population per geographic area. 2, epidemiological hotspots may occur because of importation of the COVID-19 virus into geographic areas or due to community transmission. 3, epidemiological hotspots require that monitoring of the number of actual cases is undertaken, and not only just the proportion of infections per population. 4, an epidemiological hotspot may include a ward, a sub-district, or a cluster of wards, a district, and or a metropolitan region. On the week of the 16th to the 22nd of May 2020, the following districts and metropolitan municipalities had 5 or more active positive cases per 100,000 population. One was the city of Tshwane, the city of Cape Town, in metropolitan municipality in Western Cape, at 117.2 cases per 100,000. Buffalo City in the Eastern Cape at 43.5 cases per 100,000 population. Nelson Mandela Bay municipality in the Eastern Cape at 26.1 cases per 100,000. Cape Windlands District municipality in the Western Cape at 22.2 cases per 100,000. Ilembe in KwaZulu-Natal at 21.3 per 100,000. In the Chris Hani District municipality in the Eastern Cape at 13.6 cases per 100,000. Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Municipality at 13.2 cases per 100,000. eThekwini metropolitan municipality at 12.1 cases per 100,000. West Coast District municipalities in the Western Cape at 10.6. Overberg District in Western Cape at 9. At Garden Route District in Western Cape at 5.4. City of Johannesburg in Gauteng at 5.3. River Tambo at 5 cases per 100,000, and Mangaung at 5 as well. In some of the hotspots, cluster outbreaks have been identified, and these have occurred in the settings such as factories, supermarkets, and farms, and other processing areas. The second question, work has been done by the department in relation to the containment strategies to address the exponential rise in the COVID-19 in specified areas. The department is undertaking active surveillance in the epidemiological hotspots through spatial monitoring. Action range from screening, testing people by scaling up testing, and of course, as the tests become available, testing in healthcare facilities increased, and other areas where we're investigating outbreaks, we've prioritized them. Quarantine facilities have also been mobilized for people under investigation. Provinces have been urged to continue to identify quarantine sites, accommodate positive patients or contacts, so that anyone who's not in a position for self-quarantine. Each province has established tracing teams and full-time teams of experienced personnel, including epidemiologists, family practitioners, nurses, community health workers, laboratory, public health experts. EMS have been dispatched to the epidemiological hotspots. These will be supported by the Cuban and National Department experts, and also those from the military health services and NICD and NHLS. Fever clinics have also been established to ensure that there's triaging of visits in the health facilities, and systems have been put in place to manage staff exposed to infections, including availability of the PPEs, the personal protection equipment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. We allowed you to take a little bit longer because you also dealt with figures. Your first supplementary will be from the Honorable Gela through virtual platform.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, over the weekend, we saw the deployment of Cuban doctors to one of the hotspot provinces, the Western Cape. How will the work of the Cuban doctors strengthen the health response in the province to ensure the epidemic is contained and for us to start seeing a reduction in the higher numbers of positive cases, particularly in the Western Cape? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, ma'am. The Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Indeed, we are very grateful for the support of the Cuban doctors who have come all the way from Cuba. We have almost 217 of them who have joined us in South Africa to give us the reinforcement. And over the weekend, they were distributed to all the provinces. And indeed, there's a group of 28 who have been dispatched to the Western Cape. I must say that they've been highly, warmly received. You will see in some of the photos where the staff and the MECs were actually receiving them. They are coming to reinforce the work that's being done by the team in the Western Cape. And I must say this team in the Western Cape are doing their best to try and contain the infection, the outbreak, and therefore they will be focusing on the public health side, focusing on sub-districts, and the metro in the Western Cape, in Cape Town, has been subdivided into about 8 zones where they will be getting teams focusing into a catchment area of a cluster of wards. And so these teams are already in place. Right now, they've been deployed to go into the field hospitals so that they can assist in the management of the patients who have already been triaged and are being put aside for the treatment of COVID-19. We remain very grateful for the support. We also are very pleased to see that they are seamlessly being integrated to the teams in the Western Cape. A lot of work is going on in the Western Cape, and we are giving lots of support and reinforcement because South Africa has to contain the pandemic in the Western Cape. If we must succeed everywhere else, we need to stop the rapid increase in Western Cape so that we can use the experience to go to other parts of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The second supplementary is by the Honorable M.E. Lucas on the virtual platform.
Thank you, Speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Minister, dealing with inequity in hospital services across the health platform, our poorer, crowded areas are going to be hardest hit and overwhelm their drainage hospitals. How will we ensure that a sick person or sick patient needing a bed will get a bed regardless of where they live? Is there a standard decision-making tool that all clinicians will use to decide which patients get what level of care, and how will those decisions need to change as resources get more stretched?
Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Let me indicate indeed that there are constraints in our health systems, but that the President has announced additional resources to assist us to augment the additional needs that we have decided upon. So every province is now increasing the numbers of beds, putting up field hospitals in stadiums, in exhibition centers, and also putting up old facilities that could have been derelict are being renovated. So additional beds are being made available. We have had additional human resources being employed. So in the Cape, Western Cape, they've employed over 800 nurses in the past two weeks. And Eastern Cape has done the same, almost just under 1,000 nurses, because we see the need. We have also made a call to say the doctors who are unemployed, who are registered with the medical and with the Medical Council or South African Health Professions Council should come forward so that we can increase our human resources. So we want to guarantee that everyone will receive care on the basis of need, not on the basis of means. And as we go along, we'll make sure that everyone follows the protocols. The Ministerial Advisory Committee, together with the specialist team and the clinical society of the department, are looking at all the protocols that will determine what treatment each person gets, not as to whether anybody will be judged on the basis of whether they can afford or not afford. It will not be possible to deny anyone any assistance just because they are poor. That will make sure does not happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. The third supplementary question is taken by the Honorable Nkwankwa. It is in the chamber.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much, Speaker. I think the key issue here, Minister, is being able to judge resources for differentiation of risks in the infections rate so that we can respond appropriately. But the problem, Minister, must be with your provinces like the Eastern Cape, up or corner of one's once you got tested positive, almost like a death sentence. That is what we're going to change. But other people, they go and test, and as soon as they are quarantined, we have a facility. Once the facts, you know how the market so the facts, that 1%. There are many of those instances. Even yesterday, I was on the call about the different cases in the happened along the lines of what happened to my aunt. The department, there is a good one about months to the family Minister, I tell you, look, now see, I was thinking, for example, let me quarantine like hotel, which is a healthcare facility for the province here. For 6-7 days, was just a negative. The that we should prioritize.
Honorable Minister, I'm not sure whether you got everything that the Honorable Nkwankwa was putting to you.
I didn't get everything, but I got some semblance of issues he was raising. I can respond to them, but if Honorable Nkwankwa is not satisfied, he can send a question in writing. But there are a few things which I've heard, which I think I can comment.
Yes, because he kept on breaking, so please proceed.
The first issue, Madam Speaker, relates to the challenges of resources in various provinces with regional inequities. Those are realities that we accept and we concede to. We will be seeking to support any part of the country where there's a district where we can see that it needs additional assistance. We are in daily contact with all the provinces, the MECs and the heads of departments to make sure that when we pick up any shortages in our own system, we actually intervene to get them to be assisted. A few weeks back, I landed in the Eastern Cape and realized some of the challenges with the PPEs. I actually stepped out to get an immediate reinforcement of additional PPEs to support the MEC when she had indicated her constraints in the matter. We were able to also deal with the challenges that she had faced in the employment of some of the professionals, and all of those were solved. So what the honorable member is talking about are issues that we do acknowledge do exist, and when they get pointed out, we really do everything to try and resolve them. The other issue relates to the challenges on quarantine. Here again, we have worked very closely with the province to make sure that they provide adequate numbers of beds to quarantine a number of people who need to be quarantined. And in that regard, we do also realize a number of people who have got lots of anxiety that will actually not want to subject themselves to quarantine really out of anxiety and fear. I've got stories of people who have got into taxis, drove away to the nearby town because they didn't want to be quarantined. This is a matter of information that we need to share so that people do not fear quarantine as such. Then le enye ke ayichazayo eyomhlonyana. Ifuna ukuxoxa nje kahle ngesintu indaba yomhlonyana ukuthi umhlonyana ikhambe lidala kade sasilisebenzisa sakhula ngalo kwathina ngikhula mina ngizange ngiye esibhedlela ngikhula ngomhlonyana uma kukhona umkhuhlane ngakho ke akekho ozosiphikisa umhlonyana ukhona usizo onalo uma uphethwe umkhuhlane kodwa ukuthi umhlonyana uyaliqeda nale ligciwane le COVID-19 coronavirus cha asinabo lobo bufakazi kodwa ngeke simphikise umuntu ozosiphungela umhlonyana ngeke simphikise umuntu ozothatha elinye ikhambi noma unsuku mbili noma umunyane noma iliphi ikhambi uma ufisa ukulisebenzisa ulazi liyasebenza asizokuphikisa into nje engingayisho ukuthi abantu abaningi abatholakala benalo igciwane le coronavirus le baye bangabi nazo impawu zokugula bazithola ukuthi bayaphilela nje bayimqemane noma omunye abe nazo impawu zingabe ezisinda kakhulu kuyimpawu nje ezilula mhlawumbe ke usungathola omunye othi noma ngabe ubengezugula abese ncoma ikhambi lakhe abelidla ngoba ulidlile kodwa thina siyazi ukuthi baningi abantu abasindayo bengazange balale esibhedlela bengazange babe nazo impawu bengazange bagule noma begulile baba nempawu ezincane basinde ngaleyo ndlela ke asifuni basiqophisane ngokuthi umhlonyana uyasebenza usebenzi kodwa ke sikulindele ukuthi uma kukhona ofisa wasimlekelele siucwaninge umhlonyana sizokwenza lokho sakhuluma nabaseMadagascar sathi nathi izandla zivuliwe uma befisa sibalekelele ukuphenya ukuthi umhlonyana uyasebenza siyokwenza lokho ngakho ke ophuza umhlonyane angawuphuza kodwa asinabo ubufakazi obuqondene ngqo siyavuma nje ukuthi kukhona la usebenza khona umhlonyana kodwa kuyona into esingangena kuyo ngempikiswano enhlelweni zendaba ukuthi umhlonyana ufanele noma ufanele na.
The last supplementary question is by the Honorable Parube. The Honorable Parube.
This Sunday, the President announced that the country would be moving to level 3 from the 1st of June, with a targeted focus on hotspots, which happen to be most of the metros in the country. Yesterday, during a presentation you made against your lead, you stated that hotspots would not be moving to level 3, but would rather remain on level 4. This afternoon, we once again walked this back and sought to clarify by stating that hotspots will in fact remain on level 3, citing an outdated presentation for the confusion. It seems the Minister of Culture also had outdated information because it was also in her presentation that hotspots will in fact not be moving to level 4. Now, my concern is with the 4 days to go before the 1st of June, many South Africans remain uncertain about what level 3 regulations will mean for them and what it will mean for their lives and their livelihood. Minister, is this confusion an indication of genuine incoherence in government, or is this just another direct contradiction of the President?
The Honorable Parube, you are done.
Speaker, I'm done, thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Madam Speaker. The Honorable Member has pointed out an issue that we have tried to correct. I think we should state quite categorically that at the high speed at which we are working, some such errors may happen. It is not more about what the error is, more than the fact that we correct it as soon as we point it out. Now, the issue of the announcement by the President stands. The whole country is moving to level 3, and the whole country is moving to level 3. Then the hotspots have also been identified as part of what we call the differentiated approach. In this manner, we have actually identified 3 possibilities. The first possibility are areas which we call low transmission areas, where the transmission of the virus is recorded as less than 5 positive cases per 100,000, and in which case we have an approach where we say, here we have vigilance, surveillance, where we encourage behavioral change, but we also ensure that those districts must identify and find cases as soon as possible, isolate and quarantine the contacts, and in the process, make sure that we keep the mortality low, make sure that we keep the case numbers low, make sure that we reduce the level of the spread of the infection. Secondly, is the areas which we have called the hotspots. I've just defined what hotspots will be. It is true that yesterday I did not say that the hotspots will remain at level 4, but the slide was actually an old slide that I do regret that it got included in the preparation for the presentation. But having spotted it out, we just want to make it clear that the difference between the hotspots and the other areas is that we are putting up intensive health interventions of experts, permanent teams that are just described in the earlier question, and also ensuring that in those particular areas, we keep an option where there would be additional containment measures and restrictions where necessary to reduce the rate of the infection, that those will be considered. Having said so, therefore, I think it's important to indicate that yesterday's slide should have been corrected, and we did send a statement out to correct it. So ngiyafihla nje ukuthi sikwamukele lokho ukuthi akukho ngxaki uma kukhona bekukhona ukudideka ngicela uba siqondise kodwa ekugcineni
we should accept it that there is no problem, but if there is a challenge, we should resolve it, and over and above that, there will be.
Qinisa khona imithetho yokunciphisa ukuthi igciwane lingaqhubekeli phambili, kakhulukazi ngokufaka ochwepheshe abazobe bengena bephuma behlezi kuleyo ndawo eyiqoqo lamawadi ekuzokwenzela ukuthi wonke umuntu akwazi ukuthola ukuthi uyabonwa abagulayo abanegciwane sibabeke ezibhedlela ezifanele, abahlobene nabo abathintekile sibabeke endaweni lapho bengezuthelela khona omunye umuntu, bese sibheka abanezinye izifo ezihambisanayo nalesi sifo ukuze bathole imishanguzo yabo besemakhaya, bangaguli bangakhandleki ngoba sithi ngoba bengayanga ezibhedlela. So lokho kukhonisa uhlaka lokulwa nalesi sifo. Ngaleyo ndlela ke lapho bekukhona ukudideka siyacela ukuthi sikuqondise. Ngiyabonga.
Siyabonga, Minister. Honorable members, we move on to question number 194.
Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Singh, a point of order.
I raised my hand, ma'am. I'd like to know if the Minister of Social Development is available to take the earlier question. It will be a real pity if the only member of mine in the House will be unable to ask a follow-up question. Thank you.
I sent out the same question, Honorable Singh. I have not yet been given the response whether technical problems have been solved or not, and that is why we've been moving on. We will come back to you before the end of this thing with a response on that one. In the meantime, we are taking question number 194, Honorable Minister of Health. It was put to you by Honorable Farube, and Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The question from Honorable Kwahube is referring to the national targets of tests, 17,000 to 30,000 per day, and the response is as follows. To date, more than 596,000 tests have been conducted in South Africa. During the first week of the response, which was the 2nd to the 8th of March, the average was around 35 tests done per day. During the past 4 weeks, the average number of tests done per day have increased to 15,756. While there's a need for increased testing, the current laboratory capacity is constrained by global demand for test kits, which has resulted in the shortages in South Africa, especially in the extraction kits. In addition, the lack of aircraft movement, which are allowed to fly out of the countries that are manufacturers of these kits, means that the supply can be erratic. As more kits become more available in a consistent manner, the number of tests done per day will increase because we do have capacity to be able to do as much as the target that we had set. In addition, as soon as serological antibody tests are validated and approved by SAPRA, South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, these tests can be then used to assess the prevalence of the virus, that is the number of people who were infected at some point and now carry antibodies. Currently, the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority has licensed an additional 20 PCR testing kits. That's in the past 2 weeks. It's the fastest ever number of approvals that they've done, and that is because they wanted to make sure that we get as much access as possible. Those tests are now awaiting validation, and therefore that's where the delay is in increasing those. The others that are already validated, the delays are caused by the global shortage, which I've referred to above. SAPRA has also licensed another 6 tests, which are serological antibody tests. These are also waiting validation. In total, SAPRA has examined almost 50 products at a really high rate, at a fast pace, in order to ensure we've got adequate supplies of diagnostic kits. I've also attached a table, Honorable Madam Speaker, which we will send to the members just to indicate that we are not very far off from the target. On the day, these are 24-hour numbers now. On the 19th of May, we did 18,000 tests. On the 20th, we did 18,786. On the 21st, we did 17,458. On the 22nd, we did 21,000. And on the 23rd, it was 19,000. On the 26th, we did 21,000. The figures that we'll release today will also show a much higher figure. This is to also indicate that we have done everything that was necessary to increase the numbers of tests as based on the targets that we had set. Thank you very much, Honourable Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. The Honourable Kuwe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm glad, Minister, that we're exploring alternative means to be able to ramp up our testing over and above what we've been able to have. And I agree with you, we have seen a steady increase. But experts in the field, Minister, including the World Health Organization, have made it clear that testing, tracking, and tracing is a crucial element to the fight against COVID-19. Delays in obtaining test results hampers the health system's ability to be able to track and trace and isolate those who need and to help those who need medical attention quite quickly. As you know, a typical example of somebody who tests for COVID-19 and lives in a house where it's impossible to isolate, if it takes them a week to get their test back, it means that they could very well be infecting others in that. Considering that there are international challenges which you've referred to, which obviously are over and above what you are able to do, it means that then we have to think very carefully about what cluster outbreaks have been done, have been doing in this country. We saw right at the beginning of this outbreak on what basis was the resumption of religious gatherings made the Minister, considering what we know about cluster outbreaks and what they can do?
The Honourable the Minister.
May I ask that the Honourable Member not repeat the whole thing, just the last question, because that's the part I just didn't get. I got most of what you are saying. On what basis, if you can just start on that?
On what basis?
Remember, just the supplementary.
Yes. On what basis have we made the decision to resume religious gatherings, considering what we know about cluster outbreaks in provinces when it comes to COVID-19?
There you are, Minister.
Thank you very much, and thanks to the Honourable Member. Indeed, what the Honourable Member has stated, it is true the WHO has insisted that we need to find, identify, and test people who are positive and then put them into isolation, and that make sure that all those who are contacts that get taken into quarantine. That delays do affect, in this case, the question of early management. But let me say that what we have discussed, because of some of the challenges that we are finding where there are certain constraints, we have actually discussed with the various provinces now, particularly the Western Cape, that we need to balance between a PCR test and a clinical diagnosis so that we are able to manage without necessarily being constrained by the availability of the test. I think that that's another issue that's going to become important as we move into the future. On most of the cases, the decision as to whether the person has got COVID-19 or not is a clinical decision that the doctor may actually utilize. So we're going through the improvement on the guidelines so that the delays in the test will not compromise the treatment of the individual or even the ability to contain the infection. So we are looking at that issue. Now, the question on the churches and the concession onto opening, this is based on the fact that when COVID-19 was diagnosed, we had actually asked that there should be a reduction of meetings, and we put up a number of containment measures. In this case, we had actually said that with the churches, there would not be more than 50 people. With the funerals, same, there would not be more than 50 people. But over the past few weeks, we locked down with everything. Now, once we start resumption of activities, we need to understand that there is a problem of economic activities that have to be resumed. There's also issues of social activities, which are very critical for some of the people's lives, particularly the aspect of spiritual ministering the area of supporting people spiritually, psychological counseling, that becomes very important. And so when you move forward, you do understand that we will be having this COVID-19 for the next year or two, and therefore it would be impossible to actually say there's no religious activity that could be allowed. So in the course of all of this, we have actually got protocols that are being now developed based on the cooperation and consultation with the religious leaders, where they will be part to ensuring that the behavioral change is improved. Now, if you compare that and compare with the situation that actually arose in the Western Cape, we had a problem where people in the shops just, we found in one shop 25 people were positive, in another shop 30, 40 people were positive. Now, the key issue is more about how do we bring in the culture of containment, of distancing, of using masks and so on. This is what I think we need to focus upon, ensuring that even in funerals, people are aware of what they need to do to avoid the infection, and therefore, even with the churches, it's the same issue. In a number of areas, we've got mines where hundreds and hundreds, thousands of miners are actually being allowed to go back. You cannot say it's difficult to bring in 50 people to church or to a synagogue, but it is possible to bring 2,000 people to a mine. I think that balance needs to understand there's a degree of fairness in trying to balance the social and economic issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The second supplementary, Minister, will be taken by the Honorable Mustala through virtual platform.
Thank you, Speaker. I will be taking it on behalf of Muthala. It's not Lady Chiroya.
Please proceed, ma'am.
Minister, in the UK, race-based stats were able to bring to the force that Black people were 4 times most likely to die from coronavirus than white people. And in the US, race-based stats were able to expose the divide when it comes to access to health care. And then in Canada, race-based stats were used to preempt and predict hotspots. Unfortunately, we have not received such a race-based breakdown of infections in South Africa. Can the minister please kindly give us the numbers? We want the racial breakdown, as it's just as important as geographics and age. We want the racial breakdown of how many Black people are infected, how many have died, how many white people are infected with coronavirus, and how many have died. Thank you.
Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister.
I'm sorry about that interruption. Yes, I'm sorry about that interruption. Let me say that the issue of the spread of COVID-19 is a lot more about the conditions, social conditions under which people live, if there's distancing, if there are issues of, distancing, if people are able to use masks and so on. Those issues are critical insofar as the cause of the spread of the infection. If you look all over the world, there's no country now that has not suffered the infections, the COVID-19. Actually, 213 countries have got the infection. In all of these countries, the infection goes to literally everyone, irrespective of the racial composition of that particular country. What we have seen as being the factors that are important is more the question of comorbidities, and is also the access to quality health services, and all question of the access to health services. Therefore, where there is inequality, those
Honorable Minister, Honorable Minister, please hold on. Honorable Chirpa, the Minister is responding to your question. What is your point of order?
My question was simple. We want numbers. How many Black people have been affected?
No, Honorable Chirpa.
How many have died?
No, Honorable Chirpa, you want a...
This was done with HIV, it's done with TB, it's done with other illnesses. Why not?
Honorable Chirpa, your mic will be muted because you put a question. a question which, in fact, if anything is being attended to, and to interrupt the response to your own question, that is out of order. Minister, please conclude.
So the issue of quality of health services and equitable access is a big factor in this infection and other diseases. Now, in the case of the US and the UK, it is linked to the black people suffering most, and many of them being a part of the high rate of mortality. It is largely linked to the fact that their living conditions, their access to health care is compromised, and therefore in any country where people have got a problem of inequality, that will become a factor. We haven't done all these figures on racial terms. When this infection started, we never put any racial tags onto it. We've not put it either this way. However, we do recognize that the issues of our inequality, poverty, unemployment, comorbidities, other infectious diseases, all of those are multiple factors that will affect people, particularly when it comes to those who are in overcrowded situation, amongst which many black people are in this country. So at the end of the day, the issue of the pattern of morbidity would not be necessarily different with other countries, but at the moment, we haven't put all of those figures up based on racial classification. The issue at the end of the day, there are many factors that are important, and a lot of those factors would affect black people as well, but we have a lot of factors that we have to take into account. And as we approach the management of these diseases, we are taking all of that into account, that those who are poor, those who have got access challenges, and those where the rapid spread of the infection has been identified, those who have challenges with access to health services must be supported to make sure that their conditions do not necessarily translate to a poor access to health services. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, the third supplementary
on a point of order,
will be put to you by the Honorable Speaker.
On a point of order.
But on a point of order, the Honorable Floyd. What's your point of order?
Yes. We have raised, the minister has been giving statistics in terms of the age and the areas where the people have been infected by the coronavirus. What is difficult with giving us the racial composition so that we can be able to do a proper analysis? We have written a letter to you.
Your point is not sustained, please.
Can we be given a clear response of how many black people and how many white people have been killed?
I have ruled on this question. That mic must be muted now. Honorable Floyd, Honorable Chirwa, the question was put. The minister has responded to this question. He has actually said towards the end of his response that they did not necessarily look at the numbers which will distinguish the infections from black and white. If you want those numbers, ask that minister to come back to you on a specific racially differentiated infection rate.
We've done
in that case, you are ruled out of order, and that mic of yours will be muted. Floyd. Can we proceed to the next supplementary? And the Honorable Singh is on the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Speaker, on a point of order.
No, I'm not taking any other point of order on the last supplementary. I'm very sorry.
Speaker, you will have
I am not taking any supplementary on this one.
But Madam Speaker, make sure that members got answers. You can't just shut us down like that.
Because the answers were given, Honorable Mkhalipi. Because
on a point of order, Speaker.
No, point of order is not sustained, Honorable Ndlozi. I'm on the floor.
You have to hear it first before you dismiss it, Speaker.
No,
can I
let me finish what I'm saying. You cannot interject when I'm speaking. I am on the chair.
Okay, Chair. Can you please recognize me?
Honorable Mkhalipi, I did not sustain the question, the point of order of Honorable Floyd Chikwambu, because that response was given. he was simply adding on to what the Honorable Chirwa, who did not even wait until the end of the response to her supplementary question was made. I'm not wanting to entertain any other supplementary on a supplementary, because that will be out of order. Honorable Minister, I don't know what you want to say, but I've closed this. I want to go to the next supplementary, and that is the Honorable Singh.
Speaker, what is the
Speaker,
exercise if you are not going to allow members to ask the executive?
Because Honorable Kalipe, the rules governing the question sessions apply, whether you are in COVID-19 situation, in the house, virtual, or whatever. You allow a response to be given. If you are not happy with that response, there are other ways you deal with it. You do not house the minister. You do not bombard the minister. You allow that to happen. Honorable Ndlozi, you said you have a point of order. I will listen to you now.
Thanks, Speaker. You see, it is this attitude that made you be complicit when Marikana was occurring, of refusing to press out proper information from those in office.
On a point of order.
If you can give
point of order, Speaker.
Statistics of race on TB and HIV, why
Speaker,
are you not
on a point
giving
of order.
statistics of race when it comes to
Hey.
COVID-19?
Speaker, on a point of order.
Two people are doing now.
On a point of
that
order.
made you complicit in the death of black people. That's what's happening even now.
On a point of order.
That's what's happening even now. You are denying
On a point of
the race
order.
and the recognition of our
On a
people
point
who
of
have been killed
order.
by this virus. That's what's happening now.
On a point of order. On a point of
This is the same attitude, Speaker.
No.
On a point of order.
On
a point of order.
Like you're protecting the
Honorable Ndozi, you are ruled out of order. That mic is muted.
Yeah.
Honorable members, I was not complicit in Marikana, and this is not the platform to try and justify
Exactly.
it. I have nothing to do with Marikana. The provinces have no jurisdiction in mining, and therefore you cannot even drag my name into this thing. Honorable Singh, you have the floor. Honorable Singh. Honorable Singh.
It seemed that the host had muted me as well, but I think you can hear me now, Honourable Speaker.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Firstly, we'd like to compliment the Honourable Minister for the leadership that he's shown ever since COVID-19 pandemic emerged on our shores. But having said that, Honourable Chairperson, and he said that COVID is here for 1 or 2 years, so we're in for a long haul. I'm a bit concerned that reports suggest that the National Health Laboratories are using certain manufacturers of these test kits only, and that hampers the availability to get test kits here. So having said that, what are we doing to accelerate the manufacture of test kits in our own country so that we can provide economic opportunities and employment for people that require it? Because we have to have our own product, and I understand it would take time to validate that. But what is going to be done, Minister, to accelerate that process? Thank you.
The Honourable
Minister. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I didn't want to get into the issue, but there is a separate question that is being processed, which has been asked by the EFF, which is exactly the question that the honourable member interposed on top of a different question. It's a separate question which is being worked on. So what they've just raised now is 2 questions, asking one question and then went to ask another question, which is on a paper. The question that is raised by Honourable Singh, there is no favouring of a particular company. It's a matter of which company has got kits that are available. It's a matter of which kits we can actually get access to. We are currently even evaluating kits that have come from Korea, from Russia. We will take kits from any part of the country as long as they can be licensed properly and they can be made, they can be validated so that we know what to expect out of those results. Having said so, it's an issue that is under discussion in terms of what capacity we can get to build in the country to be able to get our own sense of self-sufficiency on various kits that are possible. So we have to now liaise with various companies to try and get them to be in South Africa to manufacture those. At the same time, we're aware that there are some initiatives that we have discussed in Cabinet around what CSIR is trying to do to get us to a point where we could find some kits that we can make available for ourselves. So the search for our own internal capacity will continue and will certainly support it. And we believe that the lessons from COVID-19 has been that not only on diagnostic sets, but on pharmaceutical products, on PPEs or protective equipment, personal protective equipment, all of these, we need to make sure that we've got our own capacity in the country. When we looked at the stocks available in the country, we were shocked to discover that only 10% is manufactured inside the country. So some work now has to focus on increasing our own capacity so that should a similar situation arise in the future, we are able to sustain ourselves through our own manufacturing capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The last supplementary will be put to you by the Honorable Dr. Domo.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Yes. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The Department of Health has noted that a passive case finding contributes 76% of all tests conducted to date, meaning that patients who have symptoms have presented themselves to the health facilities for testing. Despite the global shortage of the test kits, the number of tests conducted by the Department of Health is commendable. Of course, we note that there's also been a contribution from the public sector. Umbuzo wami ke Mavovo uyafana nombuzo kababa uSing, futhi sengawuphendula ngomageba nje ukuthi uyazayo bala eMzansi abazakhayo lezi zinto zidinga emnyangweni wezempilo ubona nithenge ukuze sibone ngathi umnotho wabo bandle uyasukuma nakho sibuya kwi-COVID. So bese asicheck nje lokho niyathenga inakubona noma abakhona nabangase basilekelele kodwa ke phela nilandela imigomo yayo ke i-World Health Organization. Ngiyabonga Somlomo.
Ngiyabonga baba. Honorable Minister.
Ngicela ilungu elihloniphekile ke liphinde ukuthi lithi sithenga kobani akubangisavela lokho okunye ngikuzwile uma lingaphinda leyo ndawana nje.
Honorable Dlomo, can you just repeat that part?
Yeah, ukuthi bakhona nabala ekhaya eningizimu Afrika nabo mhlamba bayazakhaya lezinto zidinga eminyangweni esenike nahlokoza ukuthenga nakubona kodwa ke phela nilandela imigomo ye-World Health Organization ukuze nomnotho wezwe bebekwazi ukuthi basidayisele nithenge nakubona. Ngiyabonga.
Siyabonga kakhulu Somlomo ohloniphekile, umbuzo welunga elihloniphekile ukuthi sesiqalile ukubhekisisa ukuthi kulaba abakhona eningizimu Afrika bangakanani abanazo lezi zinto ezizidingo ezivele ngenxa yalomkhuhlane we-COVID-19. Uma sibala sithola ukuthi kubantu entweni amaphesenti ayikhulu 10 kuphela elitholakalayo lamaphesenti elitholakalayo lapha eningizimu Afrika. Lokho kusinikeza ke umthwalo ukuthi kufanele siqinise kulabo abaseningizimu Afrika kuyibona abakhiqizayo imithi noma izinsiza zokwenza ama-test okuhlola ema-laboratory noma labo ababhekene nezimpahla zokwembatha zokwenza ukuthi kuvikeleke ukuthi igcina lingasuleleki kulowo ohlengayo. Lokho kukonke kukhomba ukuthi kulabo abaseningizimu Afrika konke abanakho sizokwazi ukuthi sikuthenge. Kodwa into ebalulekile manje ukukhulisa izimboni zokukhiqiza kulabo kakhulukazi abaseningizimu Afrika. Sivule futhi nethuba lokuthi mabande nabo somabhizinisi abamnyama okuyibona abebekade bengekho emathubeni kuso sonke lesikhathi
nabo kucace ukuthi kulo mkhankaso nabo baneqhaza abalibambayo ukuthi babe nezinto abazozikhiqiza, babe nezinto esizozithenga kubo. Okwamanje inani elikhulu lezinto esizithengayo sizithenga kubantu esibabiza ngokuthi o-middlemen ngoba bayasuplya kodwa bathatha kwamanye amazwe bonke. Ngakho-ke okunye kwezinto lezo esibhekile ukuthi kube khona ukuguquka kwesimo somnotho ngokuthi babe nengxenye nabamnyama nosomabhizinisi abancane yokuthi kube khona abakwazi ukuzuza kulolu hlelo. Ezinye zezinto esizisebenzayo kodwa sifundise okukhulu lesifo se-COVID ukuthi singayekeleli ukuthi izwe likwazi ukuzenzela okuningi eliyokudinga mhla isimo sixakile ngoba namhlanje amazwe ahlukene asefuna ukuthi agodlele ngakuwona. Imishini esiyisebenzisayo yokwenza ama-test eSouth Africa kakhulukazi iqhamuka eMelika. Manje iMelika ivele yavala, so sigcine sisizwa elinye ifemu elakhiwe eSweden. Ngakho-ke sesizama ukubheka-ke ukuthi obani abakhona abaseShayina, abaseRussia, abaseKorea. Kuyacaca ukuthi uma besokwazi ukuzimela ngabe namhlanje asikhali kakhulu kukho konke lokho esikudinga kule sifo. Ngakho kumbuzo wakho uyiwona ukuthi kufanele sibheke ngale kwesifo, sibheke ukuthi izwe liyakwazi ukuzinza ngokuzimela ey'ntweni lapho kuzoba nezidingo eziphambili masixakwa izifo ezixakile njengalesi. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much, the Minister. The Honorable Ntombela will take over on the next question. Thank you. Honorable Ntombela.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The next question is question number 163, which has been asked by the Honorable N.V. Mente to the Minister of Basic Education. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. The question is about the delivery of texts to schools. So the answer is the pre-tender estimated for the supply and delivery and complete installation of the 5,010 water tanks and for the 1,420 taps for drinking purposes was at about 280 million. And due to the urgency of supplying water to occasioned by COVID-19 emergency, the Department of Basic Education decided to participate in the procurement arrangements between the Department of Human Settlement, Water and Sanitation and Rand Water, in accordance with the National Treasury Instruction Number 5 of 2020-2021. Read with Treasury Regulations 1686.4 and 1686.6, as well as the National Treasury Practice Note of 2007-2008. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Paulson, who is replacing Honorable Mente through the visual platform.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister. Minister, schools such as those schools in Makanyakuri district in tanks were delivered and just left on the ground. When there are no water, there's no water in the tanks and they're unprotected. What is the reason for dumping these tanks and who takes responsibility for the wasting of taxpayers' money? In addition, Minister, you just tell us in terms of the price per unit of tanks, the tank, so that we have an idea as to what each of these tanks cost that is being lying wasted on school grounds. And what is the criteria used to identify schools that are given these tanks? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister, I hope you picked the question.
Not fully, but I'll try, and I really hope that if I've missed some other question, the member will assist me if I've missed some parts of the question, because I didn't catch everything else. As I said, because it says there's no water, water is going to be brought by water tankers. All we had to do is, in the first phase was to deliver those water tanks, install the taps. Again, I'm repeating the point that it had to be on-time delivery because I want to put taps by the time we go to those schools, those taps are not there. So the water will start being filled in over the weekend by the tankers, and that's the arrangement we had with the Department of Water Affairs. So that's what I heard, but the other things I didn't hear, because he said maybe tanks were lying there. When tanks arrive, they have to be installed, so it's another team installing the tanks. So if they were not installed, so which means the team installing may not have arrived. So you first deliver the tanks, install them, and then fill them with water. That's what I understand, but I am sorry to get the member's question fully. It was not very clear, so I'm sorry I didn't hear properly.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Paulson, I'm sure that covers your question. Although you were not audible enough, I think Minister has tried to level best. But yes, Honorable Paulson.
Chair, I also asked the Minister the unit cost per tank.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Minister.
The question says, what is the pre-tender estimation for the supply, delivery, and complete installation of the 5,000 tanks? And I said it's 280 million. So if you divide this, it will be in the ranges of 10,000 per tank. So that's the answer that I can give you. If you want now details per tank, because even the price, we have an overall price. The price is going to be determined by distance, how many taps are there, but the distance also influences what a tank delivered in Gauteng will not be the same price as the tank delivered in Hlabuya-Lingane. Those also determine the different pricings in terms of the cost of what it will cost us to purchase a tank.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable S. Wangwa from the Chamber.
I'm covered, Chair, in the last follow-up question. I'm covered. Thank you so much.
Can we take that question, Chairperson?
Honorable Wangwa, I did not hear him clearly. What did Honorable Wangwa say?
I'm saying the cost breakdown, the response to the cost breakdown answered my question because that was our interest. We will follow up with another question in writing about the other details that we want to say cost per unit because we don't want estimates, and that is information that the Minister unfortunately cannot provide at this moment. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Wangwa. There's a complete breakdown. The complete breakdown, I cannot hear you what you're saying.
It's covered.
But if you are covered, that it's okay. Then we will go to the third supplementary question asked by the Honorable Siwela.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Minister. Of the expected number of tanks and water taps deliveries, do you, perhaps, Minister, have an idea of what percentage have been delivered and installed in schools to date? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member, Honorable Minister.
So, Chair, as I've indicated that we had ordered 5,000 tanks with more than 43 taps, 43,000 taps. And I'm aware, as I said earlier, that conscious and deliberately we had said that deliveries should start from the 25th. And the tanks are, or all the deliveries are on the way. So I am going to get a reconciled final tally from independent auditors on Friday. But what I know is that tanks are, some have arrived, some are on their way, and the reconciled figure will be available on Friday. So if the member is so interested, I will give him a reconciled figure that I'm getting from MECs in our CEM on Friday.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Swartz from the Chamber.
Thank you, House
Honorable
Chair.
Swartz.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, the ACDP is concerned about allegations of corruption with COVID-19 expenditure. And in this regard, there has been issues surrounding the provision of water to communities. What steps is the Honourable Minister taking to eradicate any corruption in this tender? And secondly, will various departments of government be coordinating the purchase of water tanks, given that 306 million rand has been allocated to municipalities in the indirect regional bulk infrastructure grant to fund the rollout of water tanks to communities? One could save money if you were working together as different departments to ensure that the same amount of money is paid per tank. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Swartz. Honourable Minister.
We equally concerned that after all these procurements which are happening at short notice because of the emergency, we don't end up with problems of procurements which have not been done properly. The reason also I was happy that we are working with the Department of Water and Sanitation is that provinces themselves were procuring. The Department of Water and Sanitation has been procuring tanks even for us before we even ordered or joined on their tender. But also the advantage of this process was to manage the cost so that we don't buy a water tank for 15,000, somebody buys it for 10,000. So the the price that we're receiving, it's a price that had been agreed across the government. And I can say it here, Chair, that different provinces have made very good arrangements with their municipalities so that we're not going to be tanking or we're not going to be getting water from or sending water from centrally from DBE. Most departments of education and their municipalities have the arrangements that they have of tanking or of delivering water to the communities will include the schools to make sure that you can save costs. If there's a tank going into an area to supply water from that area, it will also provide water for schools. So all those matters that the member has raised have been considered to make sure that we can manage the cost, we can ensure that there's no duplication, but we can make sure that there's uniformity. But more important, to make sure that by the time we finish the process, we don't come back with lots of difficulties about wrong procurement or corruption.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. We are at question number 122, which has been asked by the Honourable B.M. Hatebe, the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. The municipalities, some of them have complied, but the lockdown is still continuing. So we haven't done a comprehensive assessment of whether every single one of them have complied. But also we must remember that there are different things. There are things that they can have complied with because part of 6.7 says that it's talking about revenue collection. And part of that revenue collection includes licensing for driver's licensing and renewal and all that. But transport is only going to open that service on the 1st of June. So municipalities could not have complied with that part, even though it's under revenue collection. So, but a lot of them would have complied, but we have not got responses from every province in terms of the compliance. But most provinces have said that municipalities have complied.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
You.
The first supplementary question is asked by the Honourable Hatebe.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Minister, do you have any time frame, particularly to those provinces and municipalities that have not given a formal response, so that we ensure compliance?
Honorable House Chair, I can't hear Honorable Hadebe.
Honorable Hadebe, hello, phakamise izwi kancane so that uminister azokuzwa kahle bese yakuphendula. Can you raise your voice, please?
I will remove part of my PPE. The question, Chair, is given the fact that not all provinces and municipalities have submitted a formal response in terms of compliance with Regulation 6.7, does the Minister have a time frame to those municipalities and provinces so that we ensure compliance in the regulation? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Does the Honorable Member want me to list those who have responded? I don't know whether it's my connection. I still couldn't hear him very well.
Hybrid system is not working.
No, Honorable Chair, on your response, you indicated that there are 13 municipalities in the Popo and 2 in Northwest. So the question is, do you have any time frame in terms of ensuring that you get the response with regards to the implementation of Regulation 6.7, so that we are all of us on the same page, whether or not all municipalities across the country have been able to implement Regulation 6.7?
Honorable Minister, can you respond to that?
I got the question now about whether I have time frames for those who haven't responded. Well, we will give them another week to respond. But as I say, the majority of them have responded and they've said that they've mainly complied.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, I'll take this question from Honorable Frank, the second supplementary question from Honorable Frank.
Thank you, Chair. The Minister can't hear this. I'm willing to repeat it. Regulation 6.7.1 of the Disaster Response Directions refers to the legislative functions that municipalities have to continue fulfilling during lockdown. In particular, revenue collection is mentioned. From presentations by the SA Local Government Association and some of the metros, it is evident that municipalities have suffered a collapse in revenue collection during the first month of lockdown. The question is, did the Minister or the Command Council take into account the inability of businesses to pay municipal rates before deciding on the government's lockdown strategy, and in particular before deciding to promulgate the restrictions that apply under level 4 lockdown? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister, can you respond?
Thank you very much. First of all, I think we must all remember that the lockdown was not something that was planned, and there would have been plans and for the lockdown, because the lockdown was occasioned by the fast rate of infection. You would have heard the Minister, not maybe today, but some other time, saying before the lockdown, our figures were doubling between 2 days and 3 days. We were doubling our numbers. So that occasioned the lockdown. So there was no time to plan for all these things in terms of what will happen, lockdown, what will happen to this one. It was really trying to make sure that we are not overwhelmed by the infection when our health services are not quite ready. But we have acknowledged that the municipalities are not going to be able to collect the revenue as they would have done had there been no pandemic. Because it's not just the lockdown, it's the fact that everyone, I mean, even some of the malls were saying they are not able to pay because some of their tenants were not working, so they are not able to pay. So we have acknowledged that municipalities are not going to be able to pay to collect sufficient revenue. But also, even people who were not at work will probably not be able to pay for electricity at the time that they were not working. It is for that reason, for instance, that we went to government and pleaded that there should some way of looking at municipalities in the package that the president was going to announce, and then he announced.
Thank you so much.
That's my, okay.
Thank you so much. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Swartz.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, arising from your response, Honourable Minister, the Auditor General has revealed the shocking state of municipalities and the regression of financial reporting, with only 18 municipalities producing quality financial statements and performance reports, as well as complying with all key legislation. And whilst we're speaking about compliance, given that the National Treasury will be making more than 20 billion rand available to municipalities to assist them in responding to the COVID-19 crisis, what steps, Honourable Minister, will you take to ensure that procurement irregularities in COVID-19 expenditure does not take place in municipalities? And would the Honourable Minister support real-time auditing in emergency procurements, given the huge amount involved, 20 billion rand? Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable the Minister.
That question, actually, the member is smuggling a new question which is still coming. It's part of the questions that are being asked today. So I don't know whether I should answer it now or whether I'm still going to come to that question.
House Chair, may I ask the Minister to answer?
Okay, Honourable Member. You can, Honourable Minister.
So basically,
Honourable Minister, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here, Chair.
I was saying we can take the opportunity to maybe shed light if you can.
Okay. I was saying that we are working with Treasury on this matter because on the 20 billion, because we haven't got the 20 billion, but we are also worried that since the financial controls in the municipalities don't seem to be up to scratch, we are also worried. We are working with Treasury to see if we can we can put some checks and balances about how this money should be spent. But at the same time, we have met with the Auditor General, and the question that I said was asking whether we would be willing to work with the Auditor General to do on time auditing. And of course, we would be willing to real-time auditing. We will be willing if the Auditor General can help us with real-time auditing, that would be great. So if he can, we will be willing to work with him and to talk to SALGA and to the municipalities that there should be real-time auditing on those funds. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, the time allocated for the questions is expired, and the outstanding replies received will be printed in answer.
Honourable Chairperson.
Could you please allow me to make honorable thing?
Yeah, I think there's one more follow-up question on this one. From the EFF, if I'm not mistaken.
Follow up. Yes, there's a follow-up, Chairperson.
Yes. From EFF.
That's the last supplementary question from the Honorable Teza. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much,
Honorable Teza.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. My question relates to municipalities, Minister, such as Enyangeni and Amahlati in the Eastern Cape, where they cannot pay workers, let alone services, are lagging behind in terms of revenue collection. Yet you find big businesses who owe municipalities and nothing is done by your department. What urgent plans does the department have in place to propel municipalities to adequately collect revenue from businesses and private corporations for necessary services provided by the municipalities? And what plans do you have for the people who have lost their jobs during COVID-19, whom as a result add in the number of people who are not able to pay for services? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Teza. Honorable Minister.
First of all, I don't think that question, that follow-up arises from my question. Secondly, it has to be the whole of government that looks at.
Oh. Can you answer, Minister, please? Can you answer the question? You are here.
Honorable Kalepi.
It's a new question.
Honorable Kalepi. Can you give the minister a chance to reply before you object?
Go on like this.
Yes, he must not say it's a new question. She must answer the question that has been posed.
You can't have an locution.
It's not your call. The honorable minister is answering. Can you please give her a chance?
And stop protecting the minister, Chairperson. Just facilitate. You must know your job as well.
Right, but at the moment, the minister should answer and do not disturb her.
Order.
Honorable Kalepi. Honorable Minister, can you continue?
Thank you, House Chair. I was saying that the questions that are being asked are questions that relate to government as a whole, not to the department. First of all, the department is working. Is working with the president and in a committee that's looking at some of these issues around the payment of debt, either by municipalities to ESCOM or by departments to the municipalities who owe municipalities. But the honorable member knows that there is no law that gives me power to force business to pay municipalities. If I had, I would have used it already. So it's to work with other departments to see what can be done. It's not for the department only. Secondly, the honorable member, as he is asking this question, knows that there is not one department like COGTA that can make provisions for people who have lost their jobs. We know that the government has announced a package. Some of the people must apply to UIF. There is a whole package, some to social development. So COGTA cannot single-handedly deal with those things. We deal with them through the other relevant departments. But clearly, what we need as COGTA is to ensure that the department, the government works through the district development model, even now as we deal with COVID, so that we know and work is done in every district, both in terms of service delivery, but also in terms of, that's why, for instance, water affairs, we know that in this district, what has happened in this. This is what has happened, and also government has taken a decision. Oh, I must stop. Okay.
None. Okay. Thank you. I think the answer is completed. Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I think we have tried our best to answer the question. Honourable Minister, thank you so much. Honourable members, I was wanting to say the time allocated for questions has expired, and outstanding replies received will be printed and answered. However, I need to make an announcement.
You have been disturbed by somebody, Chairperson. Who is this? You have muted, Chairperson.
Honourable Singh.
I can hear you now. You had muted.
I had muted. No.
Chairperson.
Honourable members, what is the problem? Time is up. Time is up.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Bye.
Close the meeting, Chair.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Chair. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Chairperson. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Mama. Bye, Dr. Maule.